So we had come to know. Good morning, children. Yesterday we had started the second chapter from trade to territory. I had given you the brief introduction what all happened. As you know, India was famous for the spices, for the cotton, for the production of cotton, for the production of silk. So British were attracted and they wanted to have the trade with India. Not only the British, the Dutch were also attracted, the French were attracted, the Portuguese were attracted, and they all wanted to have the trade with India. Right. So there was a fight going on. The East India Company had taken the charter and it had closed all the routes. It had taken the permission and it had closed all the routes for other countries to trade with India, because in Europe the spices, the demand for the spices, for the cotton, for the silk which was produced in India had a great demand. For that sake, all the countries of the world were fighting in order to have the trade with India. Vasco da Gama in those times, before the British had discovered the sea route to India, so Portuguese were present before the British. They were ruling in Goa. They were present. Right, and they were doing the trade with the India. Afterwards, the British started trading with India. They got the zamindari rights from the Bengal king. And let us see what have happened. The Bengal king had given him the free trade permission. He was not charging the taxes to them. He has given the free trade permission. And if they want to do private business, then they have to pay the taxes. Let us see how trade led to battles. Though the early 18th century, the conflict between the company and the Nawabs of Bengal intensified. Yes, after the death of Aurangzeb, the Bengal Nawabs asserted their power and autonomy. You know, before that, Aurangzeb was ruling the Bengal, but not happened when Aurangzeb died. The Nawab of Bengal, he took his power and his autonomy back, as the other regional powers were doing at that time. So other regional powers also, he took it back from the Aurangzeb, because he was dead. They took everything back from the Delhi kings, and the Nawab of Bengal became the king of the Bengal. Murshid Quli Khan was followed by Ali Vardi Khan and then Siraj-ud-Dawla as the Nawab of Bengal. So Nawab of Bengal, first it was Murshid Quli Khan. After he died, it was Ali Vardi Khan, and after that Siraj-ud-Dawla became the Nawab of the Bengal. Each one of them was a strong ruler. Yes, all these three kings were the strong kings. Let us see. They refused to grant the company concessions, demanded large tributes for the company's right to trade, denied it any right to mint coins, and stopped it from extending its fortifications. Yes, you know, British were constructing the forts, British were minting the coins. They had got the free trade concessions. So as Siraj-ud-Dawla became the Nawab of Bengal, he cut down all these concessions. First one was free trade concession. He has cut it down, and he demanded large tributes. Tribute means large taxes from the company. Tributes andre rokka, large tributes from the company to trade. If they want to trade in India, they have to pay the taxes to whom? To the Siraj-ud-Dawla, Nawab of Bengal. And next one, what they said, they claimed that they told huge amounts of revenue and undermining the authority of the Nawab. If you want to do anything, you have to take the permission from the Nawab. Nawab of Bengal, you have to take the permission. It was refusing to pay taxes, writing disrespectful letters, and trying to humiliate the Nawab and his officials. So what these British officials, cunning fellows, did, what they told, they were They refused to pay the taxes and they wrote letters disrespectful. Respect kodlarga letters baritari, and they tried to humiliate whom? Nawab and his officials. Humiliate means they tried to insult the Nawab and his officials. The company on its part declared that the unjust demands of the local officials were ruining the trade of the company, and trade could flourish only if the duties were removed. So what is telling that company? If you remove the duties only, then we will do the trade with India, otherwise we will not do. Right, that what East India Company said. And trade could flourish only if the duties were removed. If you remove the duties, whatever the tax you have imposed on us, if you remove that, then only we are going to do the trade with you. It was also convinced that to expand the trade, it had to enlarge its settlements, buy up villages and rebuild its forts. So what it said, that it is going to enlarge its settlements, means it is going to expand its settlements. Wherever it wants to get settled, it will settle, it will buy villages, it will rebuild its forts, means it went for the building of the forts also. The conflicts led to confrontations and finally culminated in the famous Battle of Plassey. So you all know it, the Battle of Plassey. It is so famous. Till today everyone remembers it. In Kaun Banega Karodpati also this question was asked. When did the Battle of Plassey start? Right? So this is such a very famous battle, popular battle, and everyone wants to know the story of the Battle of Plassey. The Battle of Plassey. When Ali Vardi Khan died in 1756, Siraj-ud-Dawla became the Nawab of Bengal. So you can just see first point you had to write. See, write the question answers point wise. Whatever the exercise question answers you are writing, write it point wise. Don't write in paragraphs. I am telling you clearly what the first chapter exercise question answers, what you are writing, all the question answers you have to write point wise. Here let me explain the same thing. What is Battle of Plassey? Just for example, this question, what is the Battle of Plassey? So you have to write first point. When Al-Wardi Khan died in 1756, Siraj-ud-Dawla became the Nawab of the Bengal. This should be your first point. What happened? When Al-Wardi Khan died in 1756, who became the Nawab? Siraj-ud-Dawla became the Nawab of Bengal. The company was worried about his power and keen on a puppet ruler who would willingly give trade concessions and other privileges. So the company was worried about his power. Whether and keen on a puppet ruler. Puppet ruler means Siraj-ud-Dawla. They thought him as a puppet. They called him as a puppet ruler who would willingly give trade concessions and other privileges or not. They were worried about it. So it tried, though without success, to help one of Siraj-ud-Dawla's rivals became the Nawab. So it tried that without success means without any what you can say hesitation, it was trying to help one of the Siraj-ud-Dawla rivals to become, rival means enemy, to become the king in place of the Siraj-ud-Dawla. It tried it in order to make their puppet as a Nawab. Right, they tried it. Enemy king ರೀ ಸಿರಾಜುದ್ದೌಲಾ ರಾಜ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು, ಅವನ ಬದಲಿ ಅವನ ವಿರುದ್ಧ ಯಾವಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ ಅವ ರಾಜ ಆಗಬೇಕಂತೇಳಿ ಅವನನ್ನು ಪಪ್ಪೆಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು, ಗಿಳಿಗತ್ಲೆ ಇಟ್ಟುಕೊಂಡು ಎಲ್ಲ ಪರ್ಮಿಷನ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಿವಿಲೇಜಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ ತೊಗೋಬೇಕನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಹೂ ಇಸ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನನ್ ಅದರ್ ದನ್ ದ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ಯೂರಿಯೇಟೆಡ್ Siraj-ud-Dawla asked the company to stop meddling in the political affairs of his dominion, stop fortification and pay the revenues. So what he told, don't poke your nose into our political affairs. Don't try to do it. Don't try to divide the India and don't try to poke your nose in the political affairs, because they were trying his enemy to make the Nawab. That information has gone to Siraj-ud-Dawla. He told that don't interfere in our political affairs. Instead of that, your duty is to pay the taxes. You pay the taxes to the government and you do the trade, and you stop fortification, constructing big forts, ಕೋಟೆಗಳನ್ನು you stop constructing the forts, ಕೋಟೆಗಳನ್ನ ಕಟ್ಟೋದನ್ನು ಬಿಟ್ಟುಬಿಡಿ. Then what happened? Let us see. After negotiations failed, the Nawab marched with 30,000 soldiers to the English factory at Qasim Bazar, captured the company officials, locked the warehouse, disarmed all English men, and blockaded English ships. Then he marched to Calcutta to establish control over the company's fort there. So what Siraj-ud-Dawla did, he took his 30,000 soldiers with him, and what he did, he marched with the 13,000 soldiers to the factory, English factory at Qasim Bazar. In Qasim Bazar, English factory was there. I told you, where all the merchants were kept, were made to settled there, who are involved in trade, that is buying and selling of goods and services. They were kept there. He invaded that Qasim Bazar factory, English factory. Where it is in the Qasim Bazar, captured the company officials. He took the company officials, he captured them, he locked the warehouse, he disarmed all the Englishmen, he took the weapons from them, and blockaded English ships. He blocked all the English ships. You cannot move, you cannot do trade, you cannot move, you cannot sail the ships in the ocean. Like that, he blocked all that sea. Then he marched to Calcutta to establish over the company's fort there. So where next he went? He went to the Calcutta in order to capture the company's fort also. On hearing the news of the fall of Calcutta, company officials in Madras sent forces under the command of Robert Clive, reinforced by naval fleets. Prolonged negotiations with the Nawab followed. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Siraj-ud-Dawla at Plassey. So what happened here? When the Siraj-ud-Dawla took the fort of Calcutta, when he took it in his hands, that time in Madras, Robert Clive was there. He was the Governor General of the British East India Company command. He was the commander of the Robert Clive. He was the commander there. He reinforced all the naval fleets. Prolonged negotiations took place between the Nawab, but it did not succeed. It was not successful. It failed. Finally, in 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against the Siraj-ud-Dawla at Plassey. One of the main reason for the defeat of Nawab was that the forces led by Mir Zafar, one of the Siraj-ud-Dawla's commander, never fought the battle. See here. ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ನಮಗೇನಿದ್ರಿ ಶತ್ರುಗಳಿದ್ರು, ಹಿಂದುಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಬೆನ್ನಿಗೆ ಚೂರಿ ಹಾಕುವಂಥ ಶತ್ರುಗಳಿದ್ರು. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಿ because the main reason why Siraj-ud-Dawla was defeated by Robert Clive was Mir Zafar was there, who was the Siraj-ud-Dawla's commander. He never fought the battle. His army, whatever the troop he had brought, army troop, his commander was Mir Zafar. He did not fight in the battle. Clive had managed to secure his support by promising him to make his Nawab after crushing Siraj-ud-Dawla. So Mir Zafar was promised by Robert Clive that if he cheats Siraj-ud-Dawla in the battle, and British will finish Siraj-ud-Dawla, Britishers will kill Siraj-ud-Dawla and make Mir Zafar as the king of the Bengal, or Nawab of the Bengal. For that sake, Mir Zafar cheated whom? Siraj-ud-Dawla. The Battle of Plassey became famous because it was the first major victory the company won in India. See here, the Battle of Plassey had become famous because it was the first victory which was won by whom? By the Britishers in India. See in this picture, all are sitting. There is the General Court Room, East India House, right? Leadenhall Street. The courts of proprietors of the East India Company had their meetings in the East India House on Leadenhall Street in London. This is a picture of one of their meetings in progress. See how Britishers were doing meetings in the Leadenhall. It is the picture of that. So let us see here. After the defeat at Plassey, Siraj-ud-Dowlah was assassinated and Mir Jafar was made the King Nawab. So assassinated means he was killed after the defeat of Plassey. He got defeated because Mir Jafar and his team did not fight against the British. So what happened? Siraj-ud-Dowlah was killed. The company was still unwilling to take over the responsibility of administration. So company was not willing to take the responsibility of the administration. Its prime objective was the expansion of trade. Its prime objective was what? To expand its trade all over the India. If this could be done without conquest, though through the help of local rulers who are willing to grant privileges, and then territories need not be taken over directly. So what happened here? Indian kings were interested to give the permission for trade, and they were willingly they were granting the privileges to take them over directly. Whatever the territories are there which they want, British people want, that they were giving them willingly, without fight, without battle, with a lot of happiness. Our Indian kings were giving the territories to the British. They were giving them the permission to trade. Soon the company discovered that this was rather difficult, for even the puppet Nawabs were not always as helpful as the company wanted them to be. So what happened here? The Nawabs, who were the puppets ಅಂದರೆ ಗಿಳಿಗಳಿದ್ರು in the hands of the British, they came to know that it is very difficult to get the support from them, because slowly they started there were conflicts started between the British and the Nawabs, who were the puppet kings of the British. They started showing their aggression, they started showing their protest against them. After all, they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted respect from their subjects. Yes. See, if you become a puppet in the hands of the British, nobody will give you the respect. Subjects means here the people, the citizens of that particular area. The Bengal, Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah was praised by the people because he died in the battlefield. But what about the Mir Jafar? He did not fight. He was not at all considered as a brave king. He was considered as a coward. He did not have the dignity. He did not earn the dignity. He did not earn the respect in the eyes of the people. When people will give you respect, when you earn the dignity, right? ನೀವು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಮರ್ಯಾದೆಯನ್ನು ಉಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ರಿ ಎಲ್ಲಿ? ಜನರ ಮುಂದೆ. Why? Because he joined the hands of the British, who were the enemies to India, who were not the friends of India, who were the enemies to India. He joined the hands. So people did not like the king. People, in the eyes of the people, there was no respect or dignity for the king as they were having for the Siraj-ud-Dowlah, the Nawab of Bengal. For this person, for this Mir Jafar, people did not show the respect, did not show the dignity, did not show that much of what you can say, that much of love towards the king. Soon the company discovered that this was rather difficult, for even the puppet Nawabs were not always helpful as the company wanted them to be. After all, they had to maintain a basic appearance of dignity and sovereignty if they wanted respect from their subjects. Yes, you have to maintain the dignity, you have to maintain it. If it is not done, If you are not brave king, then how your people will respect you? What could the company do? When Mir Jafar protested, the company deposed him and installed Mir Qasim in his place. So what happened when Mir Jafar started protesting against the British? Then what happened? They removed him and they put Mir Qasim in his place. Let us see what Mir Qasim did. When Mir Qasim complained, he in turn was defeated in a battle fought at Buxar in 1764. See here. Siraj-ud-Dawla was cheated by Mir Jafar. When he became the Nawab of Bengal, he was not happy. He started complaining. He was removed and Mir Qasim was placed in his place. But what happened? Mir Qasim was also not happy. He started protesting against the British and he fought a battle. The battle was called as Battle of Buxar, right? The name in the year 1764. Underline, driven out of Bengal and Mir Jafar was reinstalled. So in the battle he was defeated and what happened again? They brought Mir Jafar and the company wanted more. The Nawab had to pay rupees 5 lakh every month, but the company wanted more money to finance its wars and meet the demands of trade and its other expenses. So to fight the wars, they were taking the money of whom? Of the Indian kings. They told Mir Jafar that every month you have to give 5 lakh rupees in order to run the trade expenses, in order to fight the wars. The British people, cunning fox people, they were taking whose money? They were taking the Indian money and they were fighting with the Indian kings. They were taking the Indian money and they were fighting with the Indian kings. See, and to do the trade, they were earning good profit, and whatever the trade expenditure is there, that who has to pay? That has to be paid by the Indian kings. See, it wanted more territories and more revenue. By the time Mir Jafar died in 1765, the mood of the company had changed. Having failed to work with puppet Nawabs, Clive declared, we must indeed become Nawab ourselves. So in 1765, the Mir Jafar died. Then Robert Clive was very not satisfied with the puppets, right, with the Nawabs ruling. So he told that we must indeed become Nawabs ourselves. Then he said that Robert Clive decided that we should rule the India. Rather than making the puppet kings, we should start ruling the India. Finally, in 1765, the Mughal emperor appointed the company as the Diwan of the provinces of Bengal. The Diwani allowed the company to use the vast revenue resources of Bengal. So here, finally in 1765, the Mughal emperor, he appointed the company as the Diwan of the provinces of the Bengal. So Diwan was appointed, company appointed the Diwan. Right, company as the Diwan. Company was appointed by the Mughal emperor as the Diwan, who look after all the provinces of Bengal. The Diwani was allowed the company to use the vast revenue resources of Bengal. So whatever the revenue resources of Bengal is there, it was used by whom? By the British, and administration was only looked after by the Mughal emperor. It is nothing but he became the rubber stamp. King was just rubber stamp, and all the revenue, all the money collected was taken by whom? By the British. This solved a major problem that the company had earlier faced. From the early 18th century, its trade with India had expanded, but it had to buy most of the goods in India with gold and silver imported from Britain. So, India was forced to purchase the goods and services which are made up of the gold and silver in Britain, that Indians has to purchase, which they had imported it from where? From the British. The outflow of gold from Britain slowed after the Battle of Plassey and entirely stopped after the assumption of Diwani. Now revenues from India could finance company expenses. So now revenues from India, now whatever the revenue they were getting, whatever the income they were getting from India could finance the company expenses, whatever the company expenditure is there, to look out the army, their food, their clothing, their shelter, their entertainment. All these expenses was borne by whom? By the Indians. See here. These revenues could be used to purchase cotton and silk textiles in India, maintain company troops, and meet the cost of building the company fort and offices at Calcutta. Nodri ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಂತರ these revenues, this income could be used to purchase ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನ್ರಿ, ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋದು cotton and silk textiles in India. Whatever they were purchasing from India, that rupees, that amount was paid by the Indians. And to maintain the troops, company troops under company army, their food they were eating, the clothing, the shelter, everything should be, expenditure should be borne by whom? By the Indians. And silk textiles in India, whatever the silk textiles, whatever the production in India it is taking place, that should, all the silk should be sent to where? To the Britain. And meet the cost of building the company fort and offices at Calcutta. Whatever the company forts they were building, whatever the offices at Calcutta they were building, all that expenditure should be borne by whom? By the Indians. Indians money, from the Indians money only they were constructing the offices, they were constructing the forts ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೋಟೆಗಳು. All this expenditure it should be borne by whom? By the Indians. ಅವರು ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋದು, ತಿನ್ನೋದು, ಮಲಗೋದು, ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಬಟ್ಟೆಗಳ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್ ಯಾರು ಬೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕ್ರಿ? ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಬೇರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಡು ಯು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್? Company officials become Naboobs. What did it mean to become Nawabs? It meant, of course, that the company was acquired more power and authority, but it also meant something else. Each company servant began to have visions of living like Nawabs. See here, company of officials they became Naboobs, means they were becoming the Nawabs. Company officials were becoming the Nawabs, and the actual king was just nothing but a puppet. He was just there as a king but not the king. Who was the king? It was the company. Company officials started becoming the Nawabs or the kings. After the Battle of Plassey, the actual Nawabs of Bengal were forced to give land and vast sums of money as personal gifts to company officials. See here. After the Battle of Plassey, Nawabs of Bengal were forcibly they were taking the gifts. What type of gifts? Vast sum of money as personal gifts. To whom? To company officials. Who has to give? Indian kings have to give them personal gifts. What type of personal gifts? In the type of money. They have to give them money to whom? To the British officials. Robert Clive himself amassed a fortune in India. Yes, he had a very good fortune going on in India. Who was that? Robert Clive had a good fortune. He had come to Madras, now Chennai, from England in 1743 at the age of 18. Yes, Robert Clive had come to India at the age of 18 from he had come to Chennai, Madras, from England in 1743 at the age of 18 years. When in 1767 he left India, his Indian fortune was worth pound 102, means 4,01,102 pounds he had earned from India. See, he had come in 1743 and in 1767 when he was going back to Britain, his worth, what he had made money of pound 4,01,102 Can you imagine it? So much of big money, that too in pounds, not in rupees. In pounds he had made the money. Interestingly, when he was appointed governor of Bengal in 1764, he was asked to remove corruption in company administration, but he was himself cross-examined in 1772 by the British Parliament, which was suspicious of his vast wealth. See, when he was appointed as the governor of Bengal in the year 1764 to remove the corruption which was existing in the company administration. Corruption andre ಏನ್ರಿ? Lancha, which was there in British administration, he was appointed to remove that. But what happened? British Parliament by 1772 was suspicious that he himself might have done the corruption. Although he was acquitted, he committed suicide in 1774. Right, when he was accused, that time he committed the suicide in the year 1774. This was the end of the Robert Clive. However, not all the company officials succeeded in making money like Clive. All the officials had not succeeded in making the money. Right. So what happened next? Many died an early death in India due to disease and war, and would do not be right to regard all of them as corrupt and dishonest. Yes, many have succeeded. Many have died also after Robert Clive when they came to India as governor generals. Many of them died to disease, and many of them died during the war. All of them were not corrupt and dishonest. Some good governor generals were also there for India. Many of them came from humble backgrounds, and their uppermost desire was to earn enough in India, return to Britain and lead a comfortable life. So most of them had come to India in order to lead a comfortable life, and their utmost desire was to earn enough money, not more money, just enough money to lead their life comfortably. Those who managed to return with wealth led flashy lives and flaunted their riches. They were called Naboobs. They were often seen as upstarts and social climbers in British societies, and were ridiculed or made fun in plays and cartoons. So here we can see those who managed to return with wealth and led flashy lives means very good life, and flaunted their riches means they became the rich. Right, they were called Naboobs. They were called Naboobs in the Britain. I told no, in place of Nawab, they were called as the Naboobs. They were often seen as upstarts and social climbers. They were seen as upstarts. Upstarts means going up, and social climbers who are climbing in the British society, and were ridiculed or made fun in plays and cartoons. In plays and cartoons, they were made fun like Naboobs. So here company rule expands. Let us see how the company rule got expanded in India. If we analyze the process of annexation of Indian states by the East India Company from 1757 to 1857, certain key aspects emerged. The company rarely launched a direct military attack on an unknown territory. So from 1757 to 1857, here the company has never directly approached any Indian king, and not directly has started any battles. On the unknown territory they have not done. For the known territory only there was a military attack. For unknown territories they have never undergone the military attack. Instead it used a variety of political, economic and diplomatic methods to extend its influence before annexing an Indian kingdom. So before taking over Indian kingdom, it has influenced, it was variety of political, economic and diplomatic methods it has tried to take over to weaken the Indian kings like Siraj-ud-Dawla. They had interfered in his political affairs. He told Mir Jafar, they took the promise, they made the promise to Mir Jafar that you don't fight in the battle, right, we will make you as the Nawab of the Bengal. Like that, all political and what you can say, they used to do all the shadyantras, right, plannings, strategies, and they used to weaken the king, and then they used to do the attack, military attack on their kingdoms, right, political, economic and all the diplomatic methods they used to try, and then they used to attack the Indian kings with the military. After the Battle of Buxar 1764, the company appointed residents in Indian states. They were political or commercial agents, and their job was to serve and further the interests of the company. So what was their job? Their job was to serve and take care of the interests of the company. Through the residents, the company officials began interfering in the internal affairs of Indian states. They tried to decide who was to be the successor to the throne and who was to be appointed in the administrative posts. See, this cunning fellows British, what they did, now they have started interfering in the internal source of the administration. When they appointed single person as commercial agents or political agents, their job used to see the residents, the company officials, they were all the internal affairs which was happening in the Indian states, and slowly they became the deciders of who should be the successors of the throne. Raja Namdri, ಪ್ರಜಾ ನಮ್ಮದು, ರಾಜ ಯಾರಂತ ಯಾರು ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರ್ರಿ? ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಮಂದಿ. ಈ ರಾಜ ಸತ್ನಂದ್ರೆ ಇನ್ನೊಬ್ಬ ರಾಜ ಯಾರು ಆಗ್ತಾನಂತೇಳಿ ಯಾರು ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? ಇಟ್ ವುಡ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಸೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ ದ ಬ್ರಿಟಿಷ್ ಪೀಪಲ್. ಸಕ್ಸೆಸರ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕಿಂಗ್, right? The prince should become the king, but that does not, they cannot decide it. Indians cannot decide it. Who is going to decide it? It is decided by the British people, right? Sometimes the company forced the states into a subsidiary alliance. According to the terms of alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed forces. They were to be protected by the company, but the company had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. If the Indian rulers failed to make the payment, then the part of their territory was taken away as penalty. So here they started one alliance or one policy called subsidiary alliance, where they used to give the subsidiary forces to the king, which is nothing but the English military, and that support, the company is giving support so that the king has to bear all the expenditure of the military officials of the British. A military commandants kharchella yaar nodkobekri? Who has to take care of it? It is the British, Indian kings has to take care of the British army, because they are protecting your kingdom. And that force is called what? Subsidiary force. When the king failed to give the protection, when the king failed to make the payments, that time what they used to do? They used to take that territory. They used to make that part of the territory as the British territory. For example, when Richard Wellesley was Governor General 1798 to 1805, the Nawab of Oudh was forced to give over half of his territory to the company in 1801 as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces. Hyderabad was also forced to cede territories on similar grounds. So here you can see here the Richard Wellesley, when he was the Governor General in the year 1798-1805, he forced the Nawab of Oudh to give over half of his territory to the company in 1801 as he failed to pay for the subsidiary forces. Hyderabad also same forced to cede territories on the similar ground. For that they called it as a subsidiary alliance. They called what? They called it as the subsidiary alliance. If the king was unable to take care of the military troops of the British, what they say, they are giving protection to that kingdom. They are giving protection, whether it is needed or not, they have to take the help of the British troops. They are telling that we are giving you the subsidy forces in order to give protection to the kingdom. In the name of that, what they were doing, they were taking the half of if the king failed to pay the taxes, to pay the subsidiary forces, to do the payment for the subsidiary forces, what the British people used to do, they used to take the territory, sometimes half territory, sometimes 25% of the territory of the king, in order to maintain these forces.